Welcome back. Now it's time to get into some more granular detail on some of the specific areas where the 3Cs Summit and initiative are advancing infrastructure and development. This session is devoted to the idea of smart money. It's chaired by the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Estonia, Mr. Urmas Reinsalu. Over to you.
Thank you, Gideon. Dear colleagues, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, viewers online. Julie, thank you for joining today in the Smart Money panel of the 3Cs Virtual Summit and Web Forum. By now, we have heard a lot of interesting, promising thoughts about the future and added value of the 3Cs initiative. This initiative is a must. In this Smart Money panel, let us take a closer and more practical look at the 3Cs initiative investment fund and see how exactly it can help us achieve our regional infrastructure development goals. We will discuss the challenges and opportunities for cross-border infrastructure projects and what the governments of the 3Cs can do to deliver these projects in today's corona-impacted economic climate. This year's developments regarding the 3Cs Initiative Investment Fund have been truly remarkable. First, the fund has become fully operational. And as of today, almost all of the 3Cs participating countries have decided to join the fund, 9 countries in total. Last year, the fund had only 2 members. Only 2 members, Poland and Romania. And this year, 7 more countries have taken the decision to join. And this shows not only the 3Cs government's trust in the 3Cs fund, but also in our region's economic potential and in our joint action in the 3Cs. Without further ado, let me now introduce our distinguished panelists. First, Ms. Beata Taszyńska-Muzyczka, the chairperson of the supervisory board of the 3Cs Initiative Investment Fund, will be taking the stage in person in Tallinn. Next, Mr. Gavin Tate, the CEO of Amber Infrastructure Group managing the 3Cs Fund, will deliver a keynote speech on the inner workings of the fund. And after that, I will give the floor to my good colleagues, the ministers of these 3Cs countries that are either already full members of the fund or have shown serious commitment to join. Also joining us live from Tallinn is Mr. Keith Kruk, the US Undersecretary for Economic Growth, Energy and the Environment. And I have asked Mr. Kruk to reflect on the United States' plans about becoming more directly involved with the 3Cs fund. The US pledge delivered in February by Secretary Pompeo to invest up to $1 billion towards 3Cs infrastructure development gave the fund a new impetus and can't be overestimated. Our panel will end with my statement on behalf of Estonia, and after that, the final summing up. So, dear friends, honored speakers, we have 1 hour to discuss all these important issues, so I kindly ask to respect the agreed time limit. And now, please allow me to invite on the stage Ms. Beata Taszyńska-Muzyczka, please.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me here as a chairperson of the supervisory board, the 3Cs Investment Fund, and also as a president of the management board, the Polish Development Bank, BGK. Firstly, I would like to thank you very much to my all colleagues, all friends in the 3Cs region for our common effort, good relation, good cooperation to set up the 3Cs Fund. The 3Cs region, it is a very important region with a huge potential and the fastest growing region in the world. The same message, the similar message comes from the recent IMF report, which highlighted the importance of infrastructure investment in this region and also important role of the 3Cs Fund to address these needs. It is the reason that we set up the clear goal for the 3Cs Fund to invest in infrastructure on axis north-south to build our connectivity and to build and make the European Union cohesion. It is very important to build this cohesion. But how everything has started? We heard today a lot of voices about the investment fund and investment opportunities here in this region. The number of needs that we have in this region reach about 100 billion euro, only in these three sectors: energy, transport, and digital. This is amount of money that we should spend till 2030 just to only achieve the quality and standard of infrastructure, which will be comparable to the infrastructure already existing in the western part of Europe. It is huge, huge challenge for us. So, how everything started with the fund. The fund, as a financial vehicle, will help us to build economic growth. After the 3C summit in Warsaw, BGK, Polish Development Bank, we as a management board sit together and what we can do as a development bank, development institution, for this brilliant idea of the 3Cs initiative. And we can come up with an idea, okay, let's build the 3Cs fund, which helps to develop this region. And we spent during the 2018 and 19 a lot of hours traveling across this region, visiting my colleagues in the development institution, just to convince them, let's do this together. Let's set up this 3Cs fund. And after a number of meetings, regular meetings, every month we have the workshop and we discuss how we can do this together. And we achieve our first milestone. The first milestone was the signing the letter of intent to set up the fund on our third 3Cs summit in Bucharest. After that, we work together to prepare all formal and legal aspects. After 8 months, it is impossible to achieve this result globally for the investment fund. Normally, it takes almost 2.5, 3, even 4 years. We achieve this only during the 8 months. We build the legal framework, strategy, and we set the clear goals for this 3Cs fund. And it was the turning point for the fund, because we achieve our next milestone, 29th of May. Polish BGK, Polish Development Bank, together with the Estonia Exim Bank, for the Exim Bank from Romania, we were most advanced and we were ready to sign the funding act and register in Luxembourg, the 3Cs fund. Since then, it is the turning point because the fund exists. It's real. We spent a lot of time traveling, working together for conferences to spread the information about these initiatives, about the 3Cs fund across this region with the business, media, and officials. And work together how we find the very professional company who can be investment advisor. So after this process, choosing process, we find a professional company, and during our meeting and the supervisory board meeting in Riga, we achieve our next goal. We signed the agreement with Amber Infrastructure Group, who is the fund investor, advisor, investment advisor. Unfortunately, few days after, the whole world was freezed by COVID crisis. But nothing stopped us. We worked together, even virtually, in the virtual way, and we achieved our next goal, our next milestone. The new investors are coming to the 3Cs fund, Estonian government, and Latvia through the Altum Development Investment Institution. So now we are working together and we are looking for the future, because it is very important how we want to build together the infrastructure, how we want to build the economy in this region, and what we can achieve together. The fund is commercial in nature, and we will invest only in the projects which bring the profit for their investors. Amber Infrastructure Group is responsible for search, evaluation, and preparation to the investment projects, and also for the fundraising. Huge work, great achievement, but now is the time for the hard work which is ahead of us. But I have also the good news for you. As a BGK, as a Polish development bank, the management board has decided to increase our investment into fund by 250 million euro. It means that our total commitment will be 750 million euro. It is a huge amount of money, but we strongly believe in this fund. We strongly believe in the investment in infrastructure that we need in this region. And I believe that through the three-dimension cooperation on the political level, presidential level, and the huge coordination and cooperation on the government level, and with the good support on the financial institution, we will be able to achieve to build the infrastructure on the axis north-south, and to build the connectivity will help us to open widely the three gates, Baltic, Adriatic, and the Black Sea. My personal reflection. The Three Seas Fund, it is great satisfaction that this Three Seas Fund was treated at the beginning as a pipe dream, as unrealistic. It is impossible to build this venture with the 10, 12 countries. I'm very happy that today the Three Seas Fund is a cornerstone for these brilliant initiatives. We created something tangible as a strong, real flywheel which gives the heart to this initiative. I strongly believe that the nearest future is for investment, investment, and investment. As a last analysis of the IMF shows us that the 1% of GDP as an investment debt can generate 2.7% growth within only 2 years. So now is the time also for the public investment, because only through this way we can stimulate the economic development and economic recovery after the COVID crisis. We have to be smart. We have to look for the smart solution for our region. We have to invest in the smart infrastructure project using smart money, public money, EU funds, investment debt, and the Three Seas Fund. Thank you very much, and once more, thank you for our cooperation.
So, thank you very much, Beata. You are doing a truly impressive job. And now, please, Mr. Gavin Tate, the virtual stage is yours.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Minister, and thank you, Beata, for those earlier words. My name is Gavin Tate, and I am the CEO of Amber Infrastructure, which is one of the largest dedicated infrastructure managers and investors across Europe. We manage 6 infrastructure funds and have over 130 investment professionals operating out of 10 offices. And in February of this year, we were placed in the privileged position of being appointed as the investment manager for the Three Seas Initiative Investment Fund. I've been asked to speak for 10 minutes or so about the objectives of the fund and what we've been up to over the recent months. And 10 minutes is obviously a very short amount of time to be able to describe all that I would ideally want. But I would encourage, if anybody would like to either speak directly to me or indeed a member of my team over the coming weeks and months, then you're obviously warmly invited to do so. Our contact details are at the end of this particular presentation, and we can obviously be found online as well. So if we look at the overriding objectives, the fund objectives, well, the overriding objective of the fund is actually incredibly simple. It's to enable the governments of the region to work closely in partnership with private sector investors to achieve 2 things. to firstly benefit and improve the infrastructure within the region, to close that infrastructure deficit that we've been hearing about so much in today's speeches. The fund has us focus on improving energy security within the region and to help accelerate the transformation from the dirtiest of fuels. We also have an ambition to improve the connectivity throughout the region, both by making investments in the transport and the digital sectors. We will invest in shovel-ready greenfield assets and also in assets or businesses that have been capital constrained and have therefore been unable to fulfill their full growth potential. Through our investments, we will release those constraints and seek to unlock that potential. We will also provide private sector investors who entrust us with their money a fair commercial return over the fund's 15-year life. There is a wall of institutional money around the globe looking for a home in infrastructure assets. In 2019 alone, nearly $500 billion of infrastructure investments were closed. Now, for whatever reason, private sector investors and institutions appear to have tended to overlook the 3Cs region when seeking a home for their money. And it is one of our principal objectives to remedy that and put it right. We believe that this is a unique opportunity for private sector investors to invest alongside an experienced investment manager like Amber, to invest alongside the member states, and to also invest alongside respected international finance institutions such as the DFC. Once those investors have made their first investment into a new geography, we fully expect them to return either through successor funds or by investing directly into the region. I'm often asked by possible private sector investors whether we are concerned about political interference in the fund's investment decision-making structure. And if we can pop a slide up on the screen which shows the structure of the chart, that would be helpful. I'm going to talk a little bit about, we can see there from that slide that the management board and the supervisory board are absolutely key, and the leadership of Beata in guiding us so far in our fund has been admired by all. But I'm actually going to focus your attention on that bottom left-hand corner of the slide, the investment committee. The investment committee, as it does in all infrastructure funds, sits outside of the influence of any shareholder, whether that be public or private sector. There are 2 representatives from Amber, including myself and Amber's Chief Investment Officer, Amanda Woods. There is the representative from the AFIM, the respected Luxembourg-based manager, Fuchs, and also 2 independent representatives. The only political influence that we have found and felt is of a benign nature. If we need to find out more about an opportunity, then we have exceptional access to government departments. Now, of course, if there are particular projects that a government wishes to promote, then we will do all we possibly can to help mould that opportunity into a form that is able to be invested in either by the fund or by other private sector investors. But it is a key requirement, as mentioned earlier by Beata, that each opportunity is able to be commercially deliverable within the fund's target return requirements. All stakeholders know that falling short of this requirement will mean that private sector investors will not be attracted to the opportunity, and we have given up the opportunity of influencing tens of billions of dollars of investment into the region. Because whilst the fund's size, target size, is 3 to 5 billion euros, once we bring in co-investors and once we bring in asset level leverage, we fully expect to be able to influence 20 to 30 billion euros worth of infrastructure investments in the region. Listening to the summit today, it is great that so many countries are announcing their intention to invest within the fund. And I'm also delighted to also add that Amber has taken the decision to invest up to 10 million euros into the fund, which is intended to demonstrate to potential private sector investors our own confidence in the opportunity ahead of us, and this money will be invested alongside those private sector investors. Now, of course, the fact that I am staring down a camera lens at you and not being able to be with you in person today is a direct result of COVID. We were appointed at the end of February, and again, as Beata has mentioned, within a couple of weeks of that appointment, much of Europe closed down. However, COVID has shown us precisely why the fund is needed and why it is so important. It has shown us that neighbouring countries need to work very closely together. It has shown us that pre-existing supply lines were long and arguably overextended, reaching all the way back to Asia. And that in the future, those supply lines need to be shortened and made more efficient, both of which are objectives of the fund. Investment in infrastructure is important to help any economy recover from a crisis, and perhaps no more challenging than COVID. We're seeing that on a global basis, and of course, it is equally relevant to the 3Cs region. Since we have been appointed, we have opened up 3 offices in the region and recruited heavily to ensure that we're able to respond to the demands of the fund. To date, we've reviewed over 100 investment opportunities. Our initial focus was on those countries who initially invested into the fund back in February, but it is also worth stating that an overriding requirement of each asset that we invest in is that it will demonstrate benefits, not just to a single country, but cross-border to the region. As more countries have indicated that they are joining the fund and travel restrictions were loosened over the summer, and indeed Amber opened up its own regional offices, we at Amber have expanded our reach, and our teams have crisscrossed the region, talking to governments and actually reviewing a number of these investment opportunities that you can see on the table in front of you. Our investment committee has met several times already, and we are on the cusp of announcing our first investment within the next couple of days. It would have been lovely if we could have coincided it for today, but for those who've worked on infrastructure investments, they know they rarely go to the wider script. I'm also hopeful that within the next month we will be announcing our second investment, and that by the end of the year, I hope that we will be invested in transport, digital and energy security assets. I may be biased, but I believe the 3Cs initiative is one of the most exciting developments happening across the global infrastructure market. The opportunity for investors is huge, and the momentum within the fund, as we have witnessed today from the various announcements at the summit, is incredible. 10 minutes is too short a time to describe all that I had wanted to do, but I would encourage you to either give me a call directly or one of my team. I would like to thank you very much for your time today, and very much hope that we will have an opportunity to meet again in person in the very near future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gavin. This is truly excellent news. Let me stress that Poland's Development Bank has decided to invest additional €250 million to the fund. This means that the fund is now close to €1 billion. And this is truly highly welcomed news. Thank you, Poland. And now I will give the floor to the ministers of the 3Cs countries. The first will be Romania, Mr. Bogdan Orescu, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, one of the founder countries and first members of the fund. Please, Bogdan.
Well, thank you so much, Urmas. I would like to commend Estonia for the efforts to convene the 3Cs virtual summit and the web forum, offering us the opportunity to preserve continuity with regard to the high-level 3Cs annual events, despite the current sanitary situation. We need to continue our work within the initiative, especially taking into consideration that its priority areas are now, during the pandemic crisis, more important than ever for ensuring an adequate government response. And the pandemic proved more than ever that connectivity is the backbone of our economies and societies, particularly with important segments of our collective life switching to online. We need functional links and connections in order to allow for a timely and non-discriminatory access to the necessary resources. A 3SI could make an important difference through its positive impact on the implementation of major connectivity projects in Central and Eastern Europe. And it is more important than ever to ensure reliable, functional connectivity between East and West, and especially between North and South at European level, as well as strong transatlantic links. And today I'm in Washington, and I believe it is quite symbolic that I hold my intervention from across the ocean. During my discussions today with Secretary Pompeo, I will promote the importance of the transatlantic link and the added value that the 3SI can bring. I will also advocate that we need comprehensive cooperation and coordination, and of course we need appropriate funding. We should always keep in mind that the 3Cs initiative represents a clear example of positive transatlantic cooperation that benefited from the US support and involvement from the very beginning. At the same time, the initiative remains an important regional European contribution to increasing economic convergence of the EU member states. As President's discussion showed today, despite the difficult global context, the initiative is advancing, and we have to continue this positive trend by focusing on deliverables. The Romanian government is doing its part by continuing to work on the implementation of the priority projects endorsed in close cooperation with other governments from the region and with partners. But when we talk about projects, especially strategic ones, we always have to talk about finding the money for their implementation. And in the case of the 3SI projects, fortunately, we are already able to take into account different financing resources. So I welcome the official announcement by other 3SI states that have decided to join the fund. And I hope the rest of the 3SI participating states will soon join as well. And we have taken this instrument to the next level as a true regional tool. And this is a fulfillment of what we have decided to launch in 2018 in Bucharest. I also welcome the US State Secretary announcement to allocate up to $1 billion for projects developed in the region, as well as Poland's additional commitment to the 3Cs Investment Fund. Now, reaching the 3Cs Initiative Investment Fund target size, or going beyond that, must have as a consequence the funding of strategic cross-border infrastructure projects in our region, despite the purely commercial approach the fund advocated by now. These strategic interconnection projects were endorsed by our presidents, and the fund, as an instrument also created with the blessing of the presidents, should contribute decisively to achieving our main goal, which is, well, reducing the connectivity gap, so clearly pointed out by the dedicated IMF study prepared ahead of this summit. I would like to mention two major infrastructure projects which are of priority for Romania. It's the Rail to Sea and Via Carpathia. This project's implementation will represent a solid proof of everything the 3Cs initiative stands for. I conclude by saying that I'm confident that by continuing the active engagement of all participating and partner states, with the support of the European Commission, the European and international financial institutions, and also the business community, all major interconnectivity projects of the region will be implemented, thus fulfilling the objectives of the 3Cs initiative. Thank you so much, Urmas.
Thank you, Bogdan. And now allow me to give the floor to the Latvian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Edgars Rinkēvičs. Before Poland, as our Latvian colleague asked to give the floor earlier because of crisis meeting. Yes, please, Edgars.
Well, thank you very much indeed. I just left downstairs where we have a digital meeting of the coalition, and happy to join all of you. And also would like to thank Estonia for very active and very productive work preparing the summit and also the business forum. Unfortunately, COVID-19 prevents us of meeting in person, but actually this digital meeting shows that one of the areas where 3Cs initiative and also the fund can work and should work very actively, the digital connectivity, is something that we very much see as the future program for engagement, like energy, like transportation. The Latvian government was considering joining the 3Cs Initiative Fund earlier this year. We formally have become members of the foundation of the fund in September, and we are looking forward to active participation. We also have discussed a number of projects that could contribute to development of connectivity issues in energy, digital and transportation field. We also look forward to other countries to make contributions. To that end, I very much welcome the US commitment and also the additional Polish commitment. Latvia also endorses transparency in investments in accordance with the best practices and international standards, and to that end we support Blue Dot Network. Finally, I do believe that the only way how 3Cs initiative can be a success, especially not only political but also practical success, is if governments, private sector and the fund interacts. And second, I do believe that we always need to look at this initiative as the ability and the tool and the program that is actually complementary to EU programs and also the tool that strengthens transatlantic relations. To this, thank you very much.
Thank you, Edgars. And now it's a privilege to welcome in person here in Tallinn, Pavel Jablonski, Under Secretary of State of Poland, another founding country of the fund. Please, Pavel.
Thank you very much. Thank you, all the ministers, distinguished colleagues. And I am very glad, I have to say, I'm very glad to be here today because I believe that this summit, this virtual summit, will be regarded in the future as a breakthrough point in the history of 3Cs initiative. Why do I say this? Because we see the growing interest, not just of countries, not just of public stakeholders, but also more and more talk, more and more debates about private investors, about private stakeholders getting more involved in the fund. And I believe that this is a very good moment to say that we are looking very optimistic into the future, because so far what has been visible over these last 4 years of our brief history, it was driven by courage that driven us, that made it possible. And we see today that it becomes more and more a combination of two key aspects here, of political will to develop, to keep up the level of life, the growth of our economy with the rest of Europe, and also free market principles that are driving the interest of private investors. And we need more of that. We need more of courage. I welcome the fact that we have more and more countries getting committed, becoming a member of the 3Cs fund. Of course, Poland is also extending its commitment, and we encourage all of the members to do more, because this is the only way we can attract more investors. And we see the fund as a vehicle that will be able to develop many changes in our region, that will be the key instrument in creating growth, in creating jobs, in improving level of life. As the IMF report indicated, there is huge need for that, and we need more and more investors, more and more stakeholders being involved. So I believe when we have good projects, when we have transnational, cross-border projects that are economically viable, that are based on free market principles, but also are supported through political will, the political need to improve the level of life of our citizens, because that's the ultimate goal of our elections, that we can really say a very optimistic future lies ahead of us. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you very much for today, and I'm looking with a very big optimism into the future, looking forward to meet you in person in a very brief time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pavel, for your very clear and strong message. And now I pass the floor to Hungary, Mr. Peter Starai, State Secretary for Security Policy. Please, Peter.
Thank you, Minister Reinsalu, and good afternoon to all colleagues from the capitals too. I'd like to stress at the beginning of my intervention that we are 30 years after the collapse of the Soviet Union. And still we are facing very similar problems in terms of infrastructure connections in our region. So we think that the idea and the initiative of the 3Cs is really something that has been missing in this region. And that's why Hungary has decided this year to join ranks and to join the initiative and to contribute with 20 million euros at the beginning to the fund. We think that we have to build more infrastructure, especially north-south links are missing from the region still. And in that spirit, we have proposed several different initiatives, several projects, 8 in the field of energy, 6 projects in the field of infrastructure, and 2 digital projects. We are looking forward to the updated list that was represented or presented in the screen a few minutes ago. I'm looking forward to that because we would like to see and we would like to have some reaction from Amber about what is the principle or the criteria for selection, how they look at the different proposals of the member states of the 3 Cs initiative. Now, it's also important that those areas where we have proposed projects cover in the field of energy, for example, a regional gas grid that has to be developed, also the future use of hydrogen, increase of solar power, and in the area of other energy projects, it's also very important to have an electricity network, which is a kind of smart grid. In the area of transport, we also think that we need to do a lot. For example, the corridor 5C from Hungary to Croatia to Sarajevo is a very important proposal, but also establishing new rail freight corridor from the Adriatic to ports of Poland, as well as developing the Via Carpathia corridor in order to connect the regions along the external borders of the European Union. Another example for the transport and the infrastructure project is the Central European Highway Railway Network connecting Budapest through Bratislava and Prague with Warsaw. 2 final points. One is about the Secretariat. Hungary was the first to raise the idea of a permanent TSI Secretariat. We are ready to host this. We are ready to pay for this. And I hope there will be consensus later among the member states to have such a secretariat that could be helpful in organizing the future of the fund and of the initiative. And also, we very much welcome the engagement of the US, Germany, and the European Commission. Thank you very much, and let's work in this spirit.
Thank you, Peter. And the next speaker is Bulgaria, Mr. Lachazar Borisov, Minister of Economy. Please.
Your Excellencies, dear Presidents, dear Ministers, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity provided to take part in this web forum hosted by the President of Estonia, Her Excellencies, Mrs. Kersti Kaljulaid. The 3 Cs initiative between 12 EU member states of the Baltic, Black and Adriatic Seas focuses on the infrastructural, transport, digital and energy connectivity, which are the spin of our common economic development and sustainable growth. The identified gap of needed investments in these areas provoked the establishment of 3 Cs initiative, and through the created investment fund, we expect to overcome this deficit. The initiative indicates that there is a joint political will to improve the conditions for the development of the countries of the region and to stimulate the development of a stronger and more united Europe, also in the context of the serious global challenge caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Allow me to present you briefly the Bulgarian participation in this 3 Cs initiative as a country which is mindful of its important geopolitical responsibility in the region. I am pleased to inform you that a few weeks ago, Bulgaria made a very important step forward in its cooperation with the member states of 3 Cs initiative. The Bulgarian government adopted 2 decisions in this respect. The Bulgarian Development Bank will contribute 20 million euros to the investment fund of the initiative and have appointed representatives in the executive bodies of the fund. The Deputy Prime Minister for Judicial Reform and Minister of Foreign Affairs of Bulgaria, Mrs. Ekaterina Zakharieva, is appointed as the national coordinator for the 3 Cs initiative. It will be supported by interinstitutional working group. Bulgaria is one of the active participants in the initiative. So far, my country identified several infrastructural projects which are important in national and regional aspects. In this regard, I would like to inform you that we have presented 4 projects for financing within the framework of 3 Cs initiative. First one is expansion of the gas storage near the village of Chirin. The second one is restoration of the design parameters of the railway Russe-Varna. The third one is construction of a tunnel under the Petruhan Passage. And the fourth one, construction of a highway between the cities of Varna and Burgas along the Black Sea coast. All of the above projects, if be realized, will provide trans-border connections with all Bulgarian neighboring countries, and we will link Bulgaria with the Northern Europe through Via Carpathia, and this will generate and facilitate transport links and therefore trade, and of course will be beneficial for our economies. I truly hope that our partners, the EU and the United States of America, will support financially the realization of the Bulgarian project, as they will be useful for all. In conclusion, I would like to thank you for your kind attention, and we believe that this web forum will contribute to the development of the goals of the 3Cs initiative, and I'm looking forward to an active and interesting discussion. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Lachazar. And now it's a privilege to give the floor to Lithuania Minister of Finance, Mr. Vilius Šapoka, please.
Hello, dear colleagues. Let me start with a very simple paradox. Investments always associated with risk, but now is a very special case. Now it is less risky to invest than not invest at all. The government of the Republic of Lithuania decided to join the 3Cs initiative investment fund as a co-investor and committed to invest in it. This decision creates exceptional opportunities for my country to take part in a very ambitious project, speeding up the infrastructural convergence of the Central and Eastern European countries and closing existing gaps in respect of other EU countries. It's significantly important to develop smart economy by increasing economic integrity in the region. By pooling our efforts to implement joint regional projects, as a region we can attract significantly more private capital than any country individually, create an attractive investment environment for investors, unlock new market potential and become strong players in the global and international markets. I believe that greater private participation with the highest level of expertise in infrastructure projects will support achievement of significant results, and the dedication and the commitment of each country will reduce the risk for private partners. This is our common interest in the region to participate in cross-border projects which have the potential to amplify the macroeconomic benefits of infrastructure investment. Moreover, the COVID-19 pandemic outbreak proved us that joint international solutions reduce the economic impact of the pandemic on each of the countries. As a Minister of Finance, I always welcome investments coming into the region and my country. The infrastructure investments have, of course, high multipliers which improve mobility and facilitate trade, generate better employment opportunities and boost overall economic productivity. Alignment to the higher standards of the global economy, opportunities for companies to integrate into regional and global value chains and effectively use knowledge, ideas, finance are the main tools in this endeavor. In concluding, let me express the hope that this 3Cs initiative investment fund, in cooperation with private investors, will significantly contribute to the sustainable economic development in the 3Cs region through implementation of infrastructural projects in the field of energy, transport and digitalization. Also, a close cooperation with the European Commission, the United States of America, Germany and private partners is a key of the success of the fund. As a Minister of Finance, I sincerely hope that these partnerships will be followed by appropriate financial commitments. And finally, let's invest together for recovery, for resilience, and for smarter and for faster evolution of the DNA of our economies. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. And the next speaker is Slovenia, Mr. Anže Logar, Minister of Foreign Affairs, please. Anže, please, your mic is mute. Please unmute.
Do we hear each other?
Yes, now we do.
Okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Now we do. Okay. Dear Urmas, distinguished ministers, colleagues, the story of Europe's investment gap is an old one story. EU's cohesion financing was set up to this purpose. Most recently, the entire Juncker's investment plan was designed to address the shortfall in investment. Of total investment needed in EU, European Investment Bank has estimated an annual investment shortfall of more than 250 billion euro for transport infrastructure, energy, digital and environmental infrastructure. And this was estimated before COVID-19 hit. Looking specifically at Central and Eastern Europe, our challenge is catching up even bigger. The size of investment needed is clear. The economics in support of investment is also clear. What remains for us, policymakers, is to delineate between public and private investment, to set priority list for public investment and implement the necessary governance agreements to ensure project preparation and implementation. And last but not least, to ensure the financing package. The size of financing gap is such that a variety of sources will have to be deployed. With the public purse considerably strained due to COVID-19, alternative sources have to be sought, and in this regard, the 3Cs Initiative Investment Fund is a welcome addition. Not only the member state participating in the initiative, but also the EU and other international financial actors will be of considerable relevance for functioning of the 3Cs Investment Fund. I'm happy to announce that Slovenia side has finalized the approval process for joining the fund. Our development bank, Seed Bank, is committed 23 million euros and will be engaging in all the pertaining formalities. We sincerely hope the fund will soon count all 12 participating states as their shareholders, and that our American friends will be leveraging the investment potential with their commitment. We can say that Slovenia and the 3Cs countries are mutually interdependent. On one hand, Slovenia is interested in improving the quality of its inland infrastructure connection with the 3Cs countries, and on the other, Slovenia is important for these countries precisely owing to its geostrategical position. It is situated at the intersection of two pan-European transport corridors, and the port of Koper is an important hub for overseas destinations. Dear colleagues, the Republic of Slovenia is ready for new challenges because our citizens and the economy expect us to rise building of better infrastructure. Priority should be given to infrastructure projects that are in common strategic interest and have a positive bearing on the quality of life in the 3Cs region. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Anže. And the next speaker is Croatia, Secretary General of the Ministry of Foreign European Affairs, Mr. Sebastian Rogac. Please.
Thank you, Minister. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, today more than ever, it is crucial to invest in strengthening the ties binding EU member states and to build a network of close partnerships. While respecting, of course, our national specifics, the strategic projects of the 3Cs initiative will allow for the full integration of Central Europe with the rest of the EU and our continent in general. With the support of the European Commission and, of course, our partner countries, partner states, Germany and the United States, we want to strengthen EU convergence and our transatlantic bonds. We're all gathered here to unlock the potential of our joint economic cooperation through infrastructure projects such as energy pipelines, highways, railways, telecommunication links, which will create a firm foundation for building a stronger cohesion of the European Union. Now, we have come a long way since the initial Dubrovnik summit back in 2016, and we're very pleased to see the implementation of the goals that we have set for the 3Cs initiative. As we speak, one of the major projects is being completed, the LNG terminal on the Croatian island of Krk, which will be operational in a couple of months, actually on 1st of January 2021. With 100 million euros of invested national funds, Croatia hence contributed to Europe's energy diversification. That alone proves that the 3Cs initiative projects in transport, energy, and digital infrastructure have the true potential to transform our economies and make them stronger and more resilient. As I said in one of the previous presidential Sherpa meetings last year, this is our own Marshall Plan of sorts, and we are continuing on this path. Over the past 3 decades, Central Europe has experienced one of the most remarkable economic transformations ever. All we need is determination and action to further attract direct cross-border investments through more efficient regulations. In that regard, the intergovernmental cooperation in the 3SI region is essential and represents a natural course of our progress. Furthermore, the 3Cs Investment Fund represents an important pillar of securing the financing of our most important projects. Croatia strongly commends the progress regarding the fund as more and more participant states demonstrate their commitment to it. As you have heard today from Croatia's Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister, Croatia will join the fund with 20 million euro through our development bank, HBOR. To conclude here, the construction of energy, transport and digital infrastructure and making Central Europe a true backbone of the EU is key to a sustainable, whole and free Europe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's great news that Croatia is becoming a brand new member of the investment fund of 3Cs. And now it's a privilege to me to give the floor, invite on stage a devoted friend of 3Cs initiative, Under Secretary of State of the United States of America, Mr. Keith Kruk. Keith, you have the floor, please.
Thank you so much, Armas. Hello, everyone, and most of all, thank you to President Kaljulaid for your vision, your leadership, and your infectious enthusiasm, and also for your hospitality when I was here in Estonia just 4 weeks ago. You know, for an old Silicon Valley guy like me, I always say it's like being in paradise here in one of the world's leading countries in terms of the digital transformation. And we all know that Estonia is the only country in the world that has actually rolled out a national digital ID for all its citizens, which makes their lives better. It's a privilege to be discussing not only the Blue Dot Network and the Clean Network, but also the United States commitment to catalyze investment in the 3Cs countries supporting energy transportation and digital infrastructure. Our Development Finance Corporation, or what we call DFC, has announced its intent to match 30% of other members' countries' combined investment up to $1 billion. So DFC will be bringing this to our board session in December, which I chair as I have the other board sessions. Our goal is to catalyze that investment. This means the more each country invests, the more we invest. And as Secretary Pompeo said earlier, we're asking all countries to increase their number. Our aim is to help the fund reach $3.4 billion so we can invest all of that $1 billion in all types of infrastructure that can go for roads, bridges, railways, 5G, ports, and energy projects. It's a team sport, so our message to all of you is let's do it together. And never forget that all infrastructure is not created equal. Our goal is to support trusted, clean infrastructure as described in the Blue Dot standards. We want to enable 3 Cs countries to develop sustainable, reliable infrastructure that is planned in full consideration of life cycle costs. That has high standards for governance, transparency, environmental and financial sustainability, and most of all, it benefits the local country's human capital. And that stands in stark contrast to the Chinese Communist Party's infrastructure. Through its One Belt, One Road initiative, or as many call it, the One Belt, One Way toll road to Beijing. Those projects are financed by the Chinese government, Chinese banks, and built with Chinese workers. And they're designed only to benefit the Chinese Communist Party. We hear horror stories all around the world about the secret agreements, the forced collateral, and at the end of the day, we know it's about one word, and that is trust. 3 Cs countries understand what it's like to be controlled by an authoritarian state. And this is the reason why we initially, over a year ago, partnered with Japan and Australia to launch the Blue Dot Network. And just like the Clean Network on 5G, where now there are over 40 countries, 50 telcos, and powerful high-tech companies like Oracle, HP, VMware, NEC, Fujitsu, who've joined that Clean Network, so too the Blue Dot Network is comprised of like-minded countries as well as companies that operate under a set of trust standards, which we might call democratic principles. Things like integrity, transparency, reciprocity, rule of law, respect for property of all kinds, respect for human rights, respect for the planet, and respect for sovereignty of nations. So we certainly appreciate the endorsement here today by the 3 Cs nations for the Blue Dot Network and the Clean Network. And finally, in closing, I want to underscore that the U.S. government sees the 3 Cs initiative as critical to advancing regional prosperity and security. And I want to once again reaffirm the United States' commitment and enthusiasm for this effort. Thanks for the opportunity to be here today. And the United States looks forward to a bright and prosperous future with the 3 Cs initiative, and the DFC looks forward to putting in that $1 billion. I thank you.
Truly, thank you, Keith, for a very excellent message, a strong encouragement to our joint initiative. And I applaud the US political willingness to take this next step in our strategic partnership. This is truly momentous, and I believe I speak on behalf of all member states when I say that this opens up a new chapter in 3 Cs transatlantic partnership. Truly great news. And now allow me to say a few words on national capacities on behalf of Estonian government. Last year, when Estonia started its preparations for hosting the 5th 3 Cs Summit and 3rd Business Forum, the world was still a different place. And this year, the corona crisis threw the economic vulnerabilities of countries into sharp relief. Paradoxically, the sudden lack of established connectivity highlighted the immense value of operational strategic connections, both physical and digital, and became clear that smart infrastructure development is more needed than ever before, and that in fact, well-managed public investments in infrastructure is a sure way to help us on our road to economic recovery. As the Free Seas Initiative's primary aim is to enhance connectivity on the north-south axis of Europe, we as hosts felt an obligation to take the Free Seas of cooperation to a new level, to new practical deliverables. So, the set of deliverables for this year, I'm proud to say that we have managed to achieve all of them with your help. First, it was important for us to get the governments more involved, as it is up to the governments to ensure a supportive legal and business-friendly environment for implementing key infrastructure projects in our countries and to push for greater intergovernmental cooperation to help deliver these projects. In June, we hosted the first Free Seas Foreign Ministers VTC meeting to start these discussions, and we hope to see this practice continued. Estonia also devised a thorough smart connectivity concept for the region. You will hear about it in a greater detail in the next panel. As a fully digital nation, we know firsthand the benefits of deploying smart solutions across key infrastructure sectors. We also saw the untapped potential in marketing the Free Seas region as a safe and lucrative investment destination. Although our region's economic growth is significantly higher than the EU's average, it can be hard for a small Central or Eastern European country, let alone for one specific project, to catch the eye on potential investors from, let's say, Japan or US. So this year, Estonia created an interactive website of Free Seas key infrastructure projects looking for private investments. The list, first introduced in Bucharest and updated in Ljubljana, consists of 77 infrastructure projects, and just today this website has been launched to everyone online. projects.freeseas.eu. We believe it can become a useful tool for attracting private capital to the region. Estonia has attracted more visibility for Free Seas by creating a permanent website, logo and technical secretariat of the initiative. However, one could argue that our most ambitious goal of the year was trying to get more countries to join the Free Seas Initiative Investment Fund. And when we took over the hosting from Slovenia in June last year, the fund had just been registered and had two core investors, the Development Bank of Poland and Exim Bank of Romania. In the beginning, there was also a lot of uncertainty and questions about the fund. After a thorough cost-benefit analysis conducted by our Minister of Finance, Estonia was the third Free Seas country to make the decision to join the fund. And we did in a full confidence that it will increase the availability of capital for our infrastructure projects, can bring institutional investors closer to Estonia, and there's a good probability of earning a decent return on our investment. And this is not a shame, decent return. Since then, Estonia has encouraged others to follow. And seeing this impressive lineup of ministers here today is a clear proof that the Free Seas countries have full confidence in their region's economic recovery and in the Free Seas Fund. And we welcome the news that thanks to additional investments from Poland and Amber Investment Group, we now in total of 923 million euros in Free Seas Fund. I hope that Austria, Slovakia and the Czech Republic will be able to finalize their internal discussions on the fund soon and follow our lead. Dear colleagues, according to the recent IMF assessment, the Free Seas countries need to invest approximately $1.3 trillion, 1.3, over the next 10 years to bridge the region's infrastructure development gap with Western Europe. In order to do that, we need to pool both public and private investments into infrastructure projects. And this fund will be our first attempt to do so. By having public money in the game, we are putting a stamp of quality on the fund, a stamp of quality. And this will surely attract private capital. And we are now putting our investment and trust in the hands of the fund. And by what we have heard today from the honourable fund representatives, it is indeed in good hands. I hope this will be first of many such undertakings in the Free Seas region. So, dear friends, viewers online, I thank you for the time and for joining me today for this smart money discussion, which I declare now officially be closed. Thank you.